I spent months getting to know Daniel McLennan. Each interaction, each bit of information that he shared were like brushstrokes, adding to the portrait of the artist and his art. Like how he fell into and has now clawed his way out of homelessness, how he's fighting to overcome his addictions and gain a foothold in the art world. This is his story.
I would just set my canvas against the wall and kind of turn my back and put the tip jar behind me, and I would just lock onto the canvas and just draw.
There is so much beauty in Daniel McLennan's art, a beauty that belies the often ugly reality of his life on the streets.
People are totally clueless to the scope and scale of the suffering that homeless experience on a day-to-day basis.
On each careworn cardboard canvas, Daniel creates images of almost angelic beauty, all the while battling his own demons, homelessness, addiction, and mental illness.
The day-to-day struggles of a homeless person are just, they're unbelievable. It takes a heroic effort just to pick yourself up off the floor every day and find something to eat.
So by now you're probably wondering, how did someone with so much talent and so much potential end up in such a precarious position? The short answer is, in life, Daniel the artist has not always colored inside the lines. In his 20s and 30s, he developed a serious, crippling addiction to prescription pills and later to street drugs.
I've been on just about every drug you can be on, right? Heroin was a big one.
In 2018, he pled guilty to possessing an explosive and the raw materials to make more.
Daniel says it was all a profound misunderstanding, that what police found were in fact the raw materials for do-it-yourself science projects, lasers, homemade rockets, and fireworks. An inventor and tinkerer's workshop, he says, not a bomb maker's laboratory. And most important, he says, he never intended to blow anything up or hurt anyone.
In the end, it was his life that imploded. He was sentenced to 2 years in jail, and when he got out, he landed on the street, where he found his calling as an artist, but nearly destroyed himself in the process.
That was a constant battle from the moment that I was awake to the moment that I go to sleep, is to not lose my soul, basically, and my creative drive.
For the 2 years that Daniel lived on the streets of San Francisco, the artist and his soul danced on the razor's cutting edge of ruin and redemption. It was a period of prolific creativity and a time of punishing drug abuse. But not all of his suffering, Daniel says, was self-inflicted.
The attack where I really started to unravel was when I was sexually assaulted.
In the spring of this year, Daniel says he was drugged and sexually assaulted, woke up groggily in the middle of the attack.
I was unconscious for the majority of it. But when I came to, he started to freak out and just pushed me out right onto the curb.
Hurt and humiliated, he headed to the hospital, had a rape kit performed, and was discharged.
That was the lowest point I hit when I was out here.
Outside the ER, he says it all hit him. His body battered and his soul broken, Daniel says he climbed into a trash bin, wanting desperately in that moment for, if not his life, at least his suffering to end.
I just felt like a piece of trash. I was a disposable human being at that point. And in my state of despair, the trash can was the logical place to put my body, right?
He says a police officer plucked him out of the trash and dumped him at a nearby park. Afterwards, he moved to the outskirts of the city, taking a train each day to San Francisco's Bayview neighborhood, where he would curl up on the sidewalk outside of a Walgreens. Solitude and isolation, he says, equaled safety. But make no mistake, Daniel was teetering. The darkness, the day-to-day struggles of homelessness, the great gnashing teeth of the streets threatened to consume him.
What I see when I see a homeless person who's using is somebody who's severely traumatized, who's self-medicating to get through the day.
The only light in that dark time, he says, was his art, and the knowledge that to save it, he would first have to save himself.
Without the art, I wouldn't have gotten clean, I wouldn't have been focused. I just had this deep conviction that if I focused on my work, that everything would turn out for the better.
While still homeless, Daniel had a small gallery showing of his work. The positive press helped to get him into emergency housing and into treatment for his addiction. The portrait of his recovery and his future as an artist is still an unfinished canvas, but he's pursuing his art with a clear-eyed conviction and focus.
I can measure my success by how dedicated I am to my craft. The more I'm dedicated, the more successes I tend to have in my life.
While Daniel is not religious in any conventional sense, he returns again and again to religious imagery in his art, searching perhaps for a measure of mercy and grace, rarely found in a life governed by the chaos, cruelty, and caprice of the streets.
Daniel is pursuing his art with a singular focus. He's trying to complete and hold on to enough of his art for a second gallery show, a show that he hopes will firmly establish him in the Bay Area's art world. Devin Fehely, KPIX 5.